Hey everybody, welcome back. This is Lynn again with Paper Life, and I am showing you how I'm going to make a little golden book with a hidden spine. On parts 1 and 2, we worked on the cover. At this point, it's setting to the side drying. We're going to flip these little flaps up because once we sew in our signatures on here, this piece is going to get glued on top, like so. So let's go ahead and work on gluing these pieces down so that they can dry before we move on to sewing in our signatures. So I only work on one side at a time because if I rush this, I mess up. What I want to do is put a decent amount on this part of the spine in here. We're going to put some down in this little fold thing. I'm going to put a little on this flap here and then put this to the side. One of the big tips I can give on making a cover like this is really wait for your glue to dry, which, as you all know, is not something I am good about. So all I'm doing is first I want to put it on the center. This is going to be really the thing that is the most important. And then I'm working it into our crease here. Kind of just taking my time. Here, actually, I'm going to use a skewer. And I'm just making sure I have it really fit in there on both sides. I'm going to work this side too. You guys all know I do excess glue on everything, right? So really your most important thing is to make sure that you have it in this crease right here really well so that when you fold the book, it moves out of your way. You don't have a problem. It's just nice and fits well. So all I do is, like I said, the nice thing about this Fabri-Tac is it has a pretty quick cure time. So I'm just using the time that it's curing to really work it in. Just keep going over the same spots to make sure I have a nice, really nice crease in there. You don't want this too bulked up, and that's why I'm trying my best to take my time. Oh, I think I moved myself off camera. I'm just really trying to take my time and make sure that I have this as good as I can get it before I move on. Because once it's there, it's pretty much there. I don't know how you're going to get it off. I'm not worried about excess glue on here, so on this part, because that's going to get covered up here in a moment too. Okay, I'm going to say that's as good as I'm going to be able to get it. So now that that part's there, we're going to do this side. Same thing as what I did before, making sure I get the spine well covered and along our fold. Hopefully not going as crazy with the glue, but you know, what would it be if I didn't go crazy with the glue? The bad thing about Fabri-Tac is since it's acetone based, guess what happens to your manicure? it will mess it up. So again, if you're worried about that, just wear some gloves. Protect your hands. You're not coming in contact with any of that yucky chemical, but at this point in my life, I've probably been exposed to so much acetone or lacquer or any of those other chemicals from years of doing woodworking that, you know, don't follow my advice on that. Doing the same thing I did on the other side, just working down my globs of glue because I didn't follow my own advice. I'm going to stop using my bone fold because I don't want to mess that up with the plastic that it's made out of. So all I have here is just a wooden skewer. It's nice because if I mess it up, I just throw it away. And all I'm doing is pressing in. And this does just take a little finessing, a little working it. You just want to make sure that you have it well positioned, really up against your book boards here or your cardboard in the middle, just so it doesn't add a lot of bulk. Okay, I'm gonna say that that is probably as good as I'm gonna get it. So I'm gonna set this to the side and let it dry so I don't mess with it anymore. Follow your own advice, walk away from it. Walk away. Okay, walking away. So we're gonna say that's good for right now. We're just gonna let it sit over to the side and dry. Here is her inside spine, and what I'm gonna do is, well, I'm gonna show you kind of a diagram that I drew up. You have your 3 round circles, which are gonna represent our holes. We're gonna start in the middle hole. If you want your strings to be on the inside, then you start on the inside. If you want your strings to be on the outside, you start on the outside. We're gonna go through the middle hole. I'm gonna do, let's go up towards the top. You can go to the top or the bottom. For the sake of this, I'm gonna go to the top. Then you go across and you go down through the bottom hole and back through that middle. The important thing is that your 2 strings, your start and your end, are on opposite sides of this long thread. And I'm going to show you here in just a moment what I mean. I'm going to grab, I just have some baker's twine here. Usually I leave them on, but for the sake of this, I'm not going to. What you want to do is cut your string, if you're going to, 3 times the length of your signature. It leaves you with excess, and that's why I don't usually cut it off, but better to have too much than not enough. Cannot find scissors anywhere. So, trusty utility knife. What I use for a needle is about the thickest one I could find. It's pretty blunt. It's not a real sharp needle. The needles used for, I can't get that to come into focus, like crocheting, work really well. So I'm going to string my baker's twine through. I'm going to get my inside spine. Thank you. I'm going to go through the middle hole. Like so. I want to leave a decent tail, so I want to kind of hold that with my finger behind there. Grab my signature. I'm going to go through the center hole. Oh yeah, this is like the worst one to try to show you this on. I'm going to go through my center hole on all my pages, just kind of taking my time working through each one because I can never line them up really well. And they all fall apart on me. So I'm going to pull my needle through just so. I'm trying to do this kind of standing up so I can make sure I'm on camera for you, which is not making it the most easily accomplished thing ever. Okay, so now at this point you've gone through the center hole of your papers. I said we were going to go to the top one. I almost made a liar of myself. We're going to go back through the top holes. I'm not real worried about this staying together real tight at the current moment because I got to sit down for this part so I can see what I'm doing. We're going to say that hole's right up here. Okay, so I'm not worried about my twine being really snug at the current moment because I plan on going back through and tightening all of them up. So going through my top hole of my spine. There we go. Okay. Goodness gracious. This is all about how big of a mess can I make. I'm going to tighten my twine just a little bit, holding on to my tail back here. I promise guys, this is not nearly as complicated as I'm making it look at the moment. Okay, so I got this one pulled through, kind of snug here. I'm going to pull this part through to shorten up this inside part. Okay. Woo! Back through the bottom hole. Like so. Going back through the holes in our paper. There we go. Okay. Now when I say this is the tricky part, you guys are all going to laugh at me since all the rest of it looked extremely difficult. It's not though, I promise. I want to take my twine end here and pull it towards me. I'm going to take this needle and I'm going to go back through these holes. And I'm going to try to not make extra holes in my paper. So we go all the way back through that center hole, back into our spine here. Like so. Okay, I need one side on each side of this long piece. So what I'm going to do is go back through and kind of work this twine, baker's twine, a little snug. You do have to be slightly careful of this process because if you pull too hard, it will rip your papers. But here's, when I get it done, I don't know if you can hear this, but it almost makes like a pop sound because it's tight enough. Now all you do is tie a square knot. So left over right, right over left. Tighten that down real well. Like so. I'm gonna cut these off because you won't see them. All right, I'm gonna do one more since I made that look like it was extremely difficult. Hopefully I can make this next one seem easier. After I'm done with that, I'm gonna pause you for a minute while I sew these in, and then we'll glue this inner spine onto our cover. This is not starting really well, guys. I didn't have all my thread from the baker's twine going through the needle. So when I pulled on it, I only got like half of them. You can use wax thread for this. A lot of people I've heard use it, or a lot of people have told me that they use it. And it's supposed to be easier. For me, it's not. It's actually more difficult to get it really tight. I'm going to go through the middle. However, you probably don't have the problem with all your threads going through the needle at the same time. Take my signature. I'm going to go through this middle hole. Just kind of taking my time. We're going to go back through the top hole. Okay, now we're going back through the top hole of our spine. Okay, we're going to go through the bottom hole of our spine. Through the bottom holes of our paper. Like so. We're going to go back through the middle hole. And all I'm doing is kind of chasing the needle through the papers to make sure that I'm not puncturing other holes, because then your pages will be not in the right spot. Back through our middle, all the way through. Come on, needle, work for me. Okay, I'm going to tighten up my threads. So I'm going to go to this middle. I'm going to pull on one end, pull on another. So this is all just kind of about working it through, because you want your threads really snug or your pages will move around on you. So same thing, we're gonna do a square knot, left over right, right over left, there we go. Now we have 2 signatures sewn in. I have 2 more to go, and I'm going to pause you for a minute. Once I get done with those, I'll be right back. Okay, with the magic of a pause button, we are back again. I went ahead and put just a little bit of masking tape, or sorry, packing tape over my knots and my thread ends, just to keep my threads all going vertically. I don't want them going over onto the seam. So that is what I've done so far. I'm just taking my fabric and kind of folding it back on itself, just because I find it helpful. Okay, we are getting ready to glue this bad boy in. Sorry, I have a little bit of glue on that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my 3-in-1 or Fabri-Tac. We are going to put it just along this inside hidden spine. Hopefully, I am going to try my best not to go crazy with this. So right now, I don't want to get any onto this painted fabric. I want it only on here. And I'm even going to take it and kind of smooth it down at these edges, so hopefully I don't get too much spill out. Okay. I'm going to take this and stand up so hopefully you guys can see. I'm going to place the 2 spines on top of each other. Kind of just try to make sure my pages are still fitting in there. I bet I just put those in upside down. I did. Don't do that. Don't put them in upside down like I just did. Okay, what I'm going to do is open it back up and take like a bone fold and just kind of try to press this signature down in here. So I'm just kind of going between my, press this spine down in here. So I'm just going between my signatures at this point. And just trying to get a nice, secure hold. I'm kind of closing this up just to make sure my pages are fitting in between here. Since our pages go all the way up to both top and bottom, I need to make sure my signature's in at a good spot, my spine. So now that that's pretty well glued down in there. See, now this is why we kind of cut it the way that we did, why we painted in on top of that paper on the spine that we did, was so that when these 2 go together, we will have accomplished a hidden spine in here, like so. So that is drying inside there. If you're not following my advice, if you're not following what I'm doing and you're following my advice, I would let this sit and wait. You know, part it where it's 2 signatures or however you can do it and let it sit flat. But you all know me, I don't follow my own advice, so we're going to move on to the next part. I'm going to take some of my Fabri-Tac 3-in-1, and I'm going to do the same thing I did on the other piece of fabric. I'm going to glue it into this crease. I'm not going to worry about putting any glue on the outside of this edge. I'm only wanting to put it down into this void. Okay, yeah, I'm going to go with the word void because I don't know what I would call it. And it's because when they make a book with like a press and all that, they use these wooden, almost like a skewer, to hold in on these edges when they're gluing it in. Yeah, and I'm using very technical words, but that's why a book has those creases right there. So all we're trying to do is kind of replicate that. And I want to find something. There we go. I want to kind of prop that up a little. Now again, if you are following my advice and not following what I would do, you should wait for this to set before you move on to this piece. However, not following my own advice, kind of as normal. And that's why you should wait, is so it doesn't lift back up as you move your pieces around. Again, waiting to do this side if you're following my advice. All right, guys, I'm going to pause this for just a moment while I actually let this set for a minute, and then I'll come back and show you what I've done and what it looks like. Hopefully it doesn't fall apart on me by not letting it dry. Let it dry. Let it dry. Don't do what I do, okay? I mean, honestly, really, truly. It makes it a whole lot easier if you're not constantly having to go back and mess with it. But I don't know how to follow my own advice. All right, so pausing. I'll be back in a few minutes. Okay, guys, sorry I hit the camera trying to turn you back on. So here's my little show and tell of what this ended up looking like when I was done. Okay, it's still not really well dried. I should probably let it cure longer, but not going to. So as you can tell, I put some coffee paper in there like I said I was going to. They are shorter than our cover is. Okay, it does kind of drive me crazy. However, I just told a friend the other day that their junk journals, they don't have to be perfectly straight, all the same size paper. So, trying to follow my own advice. So, as you can tell, they're not the same size. Now, what you could do is trim your cover down some if you wanted to. Trying to be good and not do it. I didn't put a closure on here of any sort, but you definitely could. So I have my papers, coffee paper, some scrapbook paper. The scrapbook paper does fit in here better. And honestly, you could have went with all of that. I just didn't have a bunch of colors that would go good in it. So I have my pages. I didn't put all the pages of the book in here. I do still have, I think it was like 4 left over. and I saved my scraps off my cardstock from the top, and I'll be using those just to make little pockets or tucks or something, you know, something cute in here to dress up some of the pages. Since our pages don't come all the way over to the edge, you could run like lace down them to make up the size. But there is our cover, our book. No stitches being seen through the spine. I hope you all enjoy that, and sorry this was a pretty long adventure with us, but you know, maybe breaking it down into sections will make me feel like I wasn't talking too much. I'm going to continue just kind of working this in, getting my cover to my spine to sit the way I want for it to. As you use this, those creases will be formed better in there, and it'll look more and more like a traditional book. You guys all have a great day. Happy Thanksgiving. And if you haven't checked out Paper Lifers on Facebook, go ahead and come over and visit us. I'd love to see what you all make.